keep feeling like I'm missing something obvious, then I'm just too close to see it. Alita told me I had a home when I was young. She said I used to talk about it. But my first memories are of the transit camp, the food queues, a woman's face, who I've always chosen to believe was my mother.
What about your father?
They took all the men early on. I have no memories of the raids on the camps, but Alita told me how they burned us out.
Where'd you go after that?
The streets, the ruins.
Then?
We were captured, cleaned up. Alita fought to keep us together. She always pined for that life, though. When we were free, she would say. So we ran off a few years after we were adopted. Alita used to say we'd all lived in a paradise once, before we evolved into what we are.
Look familiar? This is where the camp was. Where we first met. You don't remember, do you?
The reason you don't remember is because you're not supposed to. Our implants, turns out they're rather complex devices. The one thing that they do best is suppress memory. There's bodies here. Under this beautiful green turf, thousands and thousands of bodies. Your mother's here, and your sisters, and your little brother. My family too. They're slaughtered. Do you want to know who killed our families, Wolf? There was contagion in the camps, and they wiped us all out for fear of it. And not just here, all over England. It was a little coordinated effort, 5 million people in under a fortnight. Now that's quite an achievement, isn't it? Don't you think?
The series The Peripheral, a sci-fi drama that follows the story of Flynn Fisher, who through time travel finds herself entangled with the events 70 years in her future, where the world looks a lot different. The people of the future are cagey about the details regarding to what happened to the drastic world change. We learn about the term the jackpot. The book describes the jackpot as an androgenic, systemic, multiplex event that has no beginning or end. The world that Flynn visits in the future is set in the post-jackpot era, post-reset era, where she notices the population is much lesser than in her own timeline. Due to the jackpot, the apocalyptic event, it's hard to pinpoint exactly where it started. It wasn't just one event that changed everything, it was a group of events happening simultaneously or in succession that led to a lot of deaths and a steep downfall in the population. The jackpot in the peripheral is everything from wars, famine, water shortages and food crises that spread to claim the lives of many. By the time things were brought under control, 80% of the world's population had been lost. The loss of human lives was also accompanied by the disappearance of animals. The rich became richer, and the future is now controlled by them. In fact, they have gone so far in exercising their power and influence that they are now reaching out to the past to control it too. The event is called the jackpot, a term usually associated with something great, because it greatly profited the rich. It can be assumed that they were the ones to coin the term. While the rest of the world was going to hell, they succeeded in surviving it simply because they could afford to. While the lower classes suffered and new advancements were made to alleviate the problems, it is the rich who prospered even more. With any jackpot within our own world, whether that is the lottery or gambling, we all know the winner usually takes all, and that winner is usually one, if not one limited to a few. In the clips I provided, you hear about 2 grown-up orphans whose parents were killed in the jackpot and lived in the wilderness alone for a while, avoiding capture of the new rulers until they were caught and placed in a home for children before being adopted and given new lives. In the series, they are also given implants that make them forget their past. By removing the implants, they can remember the past. This kind of reminds me of the jabs all children are given when birth. I've always wondered what those jabs really do. The whole scenario of the jackpot, which is an apocalyptic event, the wiping out of millions or billions of people with vast amounts of children remaining, the children then being hunted and placed in homes, reminds me of our own past and gives potential value to the orphan trains. Why do we see the orphan trains as such a mystery when the truth could be pretty simple? As simple as an event that took place that reshaped the old world, and from that the previous populations were largely wiped out. Due to this reset type event, the ones that weren't killed in the event would have been hunted down. Firstly the men, as the men would have fought back, rebelled, with some women and children casualties, but far littler than the loss of men. Men of the lower classes essentially being wiped out, and if the women were needed to fight or aid the men, most of them would have been wiped out too. Finally, the remaining children would have been caught and sent into the new world. Is this where we see the orphan trains emerge? To live a new life, forgetting about their old ones, put into workhouses, put up for adoption, placed in various places for various means, and somehow I feel a lot of the slaves of the past were also connected to this. Maybe the men and women that did survive were treated in this way, they became the slaves of the new narrative. Now our history doesn't state an event took place, but as discussed in other videos, a narrative has been placed over the truth. History rewritten by the winners of the past. We look at the buildings of the past, the ruins, and wonder what happened. History doesn't give a valid explanation for both how these buildings were constructed in the time period they rose, we are told with limited technology, and also how they came to their demise and why. Seeing buildings of the past that far outweigh our buildings in both beauty and design are destroyed and replaced with less sophisticated ones. As explained before, truth is hidden, shattered and spread, put with fantasy such as movies, books and TV. And this brings me to this TV series, The Peripheral, which I have given a brief explanation and shown clips to highlight a potential true past.